Super BS.
Oh yeah, we're back again. Again, they can't cancel us. They tried. The petition went out, got over 50,000 signatures, but they couldn't do it. We had Kathleen Kennedy on our side,
50,001,
and we came back.
I heard they're starting a GoFundMe just to get more funding to go ahead and try and get you canceled.
Yeah, they are. Their attempts have failed. It's yeah.
Indiegogo is what they're going to now. They couldn't get the GoFundMe.
Patreon's coming up around the corner.
Indiegogo, well. Yeah, they tried. What's the other one?
The original
Kickstarter, yeah, and it was they had a magazine that talked about how much bread Brank actually broke, and nobody wanted it. So it's just
remember when Kickstarter was a thing.
I still kickstart like this one gaming magazine called A Profound Waste of Time because it's super legit. But yeah, it is sad to see how far Kickstarter has fallen, right? It used to be where everybody put any of their creative projects, and now it's like every blue moon, some interesting project will be there, but you have to realize like you might get nothing out of it. You might just be giving people some free money. So
yeah, I kickstarted. I've done a couple of game journals on there that have been pretty cool. But yeah, there's little nuggets in there. There's also a lot of
chicken nuggets,
kind of a lot of garbage too. So yeah,
chicken nuggets,
dino nuggets. All right, so this is Jank the Despised One, also known as known in the real world as Josh Peterson here, and I'm joined here by who's this baby boy up here in the right-hand corner of my screen?
Lovable baby boy Brank, back from the dead and ready to break some bread with you boys. I'm ready to get excited, talk about all the positive news, talk about cheap and efficient and affordable gaming is going to be, how noticeable the upgrades are in the future. We're excited.
Yeah. All right. And also we have a man who needs no introduction ever. Who is this?
Do it anyways. Just humor me.
Yeah, there we go. The captain of all the podcasts. We have Gerald Glassford here, straight out of Nevada, or how warm it is. He could say he's from the deep south right now.
Actually, we just had a day under 100 degrees, and it's actually going to get into the 70s and 80s next week. So
that is crazy.
Happy National Video Games Day, guys.
Yeah, that's
Hooray,
right.
We did it.
Yeah, they gave us nerds our own holiday.
In honor of that, I'm wearing my exceedingly rare The Order 1886 t-shirt right here. Yes, that's PlayStation 4.
Number one PS4 game.
Yep. Well, I love the story. I think the game looks awesome, but then you have to play it.
It was a really difficult game. Like, I'll be honest with you.
Way harder than I thought.
I enjoyed all 40 minutes of it. Yes. I'm sorry, 5 hours. Yes.
Really
short.
Is it 4 or 5 hours? I never actually finished that. I really liked it.
5 hours. Yeah. It's pretty short.
So crazy how short that game was. I remember, and that was coming right off of like the 360 era where games were super long. And a lot of people were like, we're doing 80 hours or whatever.
Well, that's what Doom did, is because it was so short. Now you have games that are that short and no one makes a big deal anymore about it.
People like it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
But it was also too much of the match the button color, whichever color button that you need to push, just a little too much of that. But the lore I love so much, and the look, it is probably still one of the best PlayStation 4 games, best looking of all time. And it is just so beautiful to look at. And sorry it didn't pan out, but Ready at Dawn, the company that made them, I wanted to say rest in peace, Ready at Dawn, because they just got, and I know that we're going to talk about Xbox as well, but yeah, they just sent packing the entire company. So they closed it down. Meta did, because Meta bought Ready at Dawn from PlayStation to make games for them. Yeah, VR. And yeah, that didn't work out because VR.
Everybody loves VR, man. What are you talking about? It's the number one thing we talk about every week.
Yeah.
We're wearing our glasses right now. Can't you see with our Apple Vision Pros? We all bought that because it was a necessary item, so we all needed it.
No, I'm
notice how they
actually
kind of sweep that under the rug. iPhone 16, everyone.
Yeah, I'm actually podcasting from my bathroom right now. I'm just swiping the heads out of the way here.
That's not a real baby. That's a fake baby in his arm.
Baby. This is AI. This is AI right here. Isn't this rad?
Baby graphics have gotten so good, it's like wild. They look real now. It is, I mean, not to derail, but boy, is it crazy that the Apple Vision Pro came out this March. It feels like it was years ago with how no one has spoken about it. It kind of is mind blowing. I remember when all the streamers who got one got their hands on one. I looked at it and I was like, for a second, I was like, man, it's kind of interesting and neat, but it didn't really have anything that was worth picking up. And now no one talks about it because it died. It is already done.
Yep. Yeah, it was pretty crazy because a lot of people really like excited about it, and then they had the cool like commercials, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is really cool," but it was so expensive and super impractical. So why? At that point, what is it for? Who is it for?
It is crazy that like what we're seeing, and of course, no video game console company would ever try to sell an overpriced, unnecessary item. So I think they would. Everybody who makes video games, they make reasonably affordable ones that they're generations. That's what we believe in, right?
Always with the consumer in mind. Always. Yeah.
Always. We are there for the masses. We care about selling a lot of these consoles. We do not want just the whales. We want everyone.
Would you like a games as a service game as well?
Yeah, we love all that.
Only if I could buy things inside the game. Is that possible?
And pay up front for it as well?
Oh man, kick us off, my boy. We got to get to this.
All right. First of all, Brink, I got to check in on your Astrobot progress. Where are you at? How you doing?
I finished the game. I got all the bots. I'm just about to do whatever there is to 100% and get the platinum. That game's incredible. You guys should play it. It is the most fun Sony. I'm sure I said this exact thing last episode. It's the most fun game Sony has made in a really, really long time. Like most of their games, like I mentioned, again, aren't designed for fun. They're designed for immersion, realism, storytelling, whatever, right? And a lot of them have fun as like an outlier, like Ghost of Tsushima. A lot of fun. There are moments in God of War Ragnarok that are fun. But Astrobot is just the joy of like Donkey Kong Country and Mario 3D World. And, you know, just that fun of like, oh, this is fun to go from here to here and find this puzzle and solve it and then do this random side tangent content where I'm now sliding down a hill or shooting water to cool off lava or whatever, right? There's so much in there mixed with all their fun like cameos from their old games. And it's like, it doesn't feel like a commercial because I mean, I'm going to spoil one character for you, but like Space Channel number 5, there's a Space Channel number 5 bot in it. I mean, they don't even sell Space Channel number 5, I don't think. And they haven't for a long time. And it's a Sega Dreamcast game that was released on PlayStation 2. So it's like the idea that they have that is just like hey, we love games, right? And we you know, we want to focus on Sony games, but it wasn't like it was mainly a Dreamcast game, right? So I don't know. There's a lot that I really, really love about it. I think the hardest part is that like, you know, I finished it in I think my clock said 6 or 7 hours. And I'm going to have 100% in probably like not even double that, probably an extra 3-4 hours. So, you know, it's a
$60 then.
It was worth it. I mean, it's those $6 per hour of fun were incredible. Like I'd pay it in a heartbeat. I think I'm just sad because I know it's unlikely I'm going to get this style of game for a while, right? Like they just don't turn these out very often. They don't have 5 studios making Astrobots. They have 1. And so even if they make Astrobot 2, what are we talking, 4 or 5 years? Maybe like a year for DLC. So yeah, that's the only thing. I think that's my only negative takeaway is like, I want more of this. And I'm sad to know that this is probably it for a while. There's probably not going to be Astrobot, a sequel or DLC.
Yeah. Here. Well, so one would hope though that the success of like, so last night I got to Astrobot. I was on playing Astrobot and I realized you could go back to the planet where all your little bots,
the hub world.
You're like, I didn't know that. So I'm walking around like, this is some really cool things. But unlike the demo thing you get on the PS5, like you have to, it gatekeeps you. Like you can't go to certain places until you complete certain levels. So I like that.
Yeah, it's a world structure. It's the same as like Super Mario World or any of the other ones. It looks less linear, but it's still linear. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I think that stuff, like the actual game itself is really simple. It's just made really well, right? It's not like it's doing something crazy different, but I mean, truly, when it comes down to like this is better than Mario Wonder, the Mario game that released last October. So it's like anything where they've done better than a Mario game. I mean, that should be celebrated, right? Like Sony isn't known as the platforming king. They've gotten rid of their like Jack and Daxter. No more platforming from them, right? Ape Escape, all the ones they used to make, gone. So this is it.
Which is a shame. So my hope here would be, though, with how fun and I'm assuming successful Astrobot has been, like somebody out there would, make another platformer from the days of yesterday.
That'd be great, but I think besides our Croc Legend of the Gobos, which looks like it's even higher def than Astrobot, if you saw the trailer, where we got what Crash 4 a few years ago that people liked and said was good, but it's another Crash game.
Yeah.
There's just something more special about Astrobot because it isn't fully open like a Super Mario Odyssey, but it is way less linear. It is very similar to like a Super Mario 3D World mixed with I forgot what it's called, but in the Super Mario 3D World, they had a Bowser's Fury side game, right? The open world Mario, like the sections of that remind me a lot of Astrobot. And that was a lot of fun. That just ran really poorly on the Switch.
Yeah. I mean, I'm digging it for sure. Hopefully I'll get to finish it here one of these days if I can play without falling asleep. Anyways, guys, let me pose a hypothetical to you guys. All right.
Okay.
Let's say that we collectively invented a shoe. All right.
Yeah.
There's a good shoe. That. All right. There's a shoe that it was highly sought after. People are using bots to pick up this shoe off the internet. And for a while, people couldn't buy the shoe because it's such a great shoe. All right. But the shoe was really expensive. And, we didn't produce a lot of different colored laces for this particular shoe. All right. And then lately we were like, we sat around and we were like, oh, maybe we should make this shoe better. All right. So we make a better shoe, and a shoe that when put on your foot, it runs maybe like 10 miles per hour faster.
That's good. It can run on its own.
Yeah, but you have to buy the arch support separately. All right.
Okay.
And we put this shoe out, and we're like, we're going to charge $200 more for this shoe. And how as a consumer, how would you feel about that?
I'd buy all of them. I'd buy every shoe that we made, okay? It would be a bad business model because I would be buying every shoe that we make immediately for $200 more.
For $200
plus all the arch support.
So if you guys didn't get the shoe is actually the PlayStation 5 Pro. I don't know if you picked up on that, but
wait, what? This is the shoe that we're making?
What? I can't put my foot in that PlayStation. So they recently announced Brink, you probably know a little bit more about the details than I do. I just know it's got a better GPU system.
Ray tracing, baby. Ray tracing.
Ray tracing.
They've been talking about ray tracing forever, and only like the top 5% of people that have like super high def TVs can pick up on any of that.
So doesn't matter. Ray tracing, catchwords, man. Ray tracing.
What are you talking about? None of these are catchwords. The big three, as we will call them, are not catchwords with a 60% faster GPU that ends up being a 47% increase in graphic units. And we're not talking just about ray tracing. We're also talking about AI super sampling, also known as PSSR. Okay. None of these are buzzwords. AI is not a buzzword. Ray tracing is not a buzzword. Percent increases aren't buzzwords for the Apple cases. Yeah. I mean, this is wild. Let's real quick go over the specs just super fast outside of teraflops and GPUs and stuff. It's going to be a 2 terabyte internal SSD PS5. It is going to have 3 gills on the side instead of the 1. So it's now got a Wolverine claw. It will not come with a stand. You will not need a disk drive, okay? So don't even try it, because if you want one, you got to buy it separately.
How much is it?
The disk drive?
Yeah.
I want to say they said it's 80, at least in the
80.
US.
Yes. And that's 30 for the stand if you want to keep it vertical.
700 plus.
Wait, Gerald. But the thing is, Jank, you almost ruined it. No one heard about how cheap the PS5 Pro is. It's a meager nothing. It's $700. It's what we spend at the grocery store every day now. So it's just,
much at the Costco.
Yeah, it's probably half of what we spend at Costco. So just go out and buy a few, for each of your rooms in your house, because it's cheap, right? The PS5 must have been what, $1,200. So it's good that they lowered the price.
Yeah, this is a discount.
No, it is crazy. I want to hear about what Gerald thinks of this very godsend. Sony, thankfully, they blessed us with this PS5 Pro because we don't deserve it. They're kind enough to allow us to pay $700 plus for this.
I threw out that number 700, but went on our last show. So
you said that. I know. I thought you were psychotic because this is 2006 again. This is Sony PS3.
I spent $700 already on a PS3, on a PlayStation once in my lifetime. I'm not going to do it again. I don't have a PlayStation 5 yet because I haven't found a game that I have to get it for. Is GTA 6 going to be that game? We'll find out. But if that's the case, though, PlayStation 5 Pro, if I want to get that, first off, before tax, because everybody forgets about paying tax. And depending on which state you're in or country you're in, it could be a heck of a lot more. But I've spoken to people from around the country and around the world on this already. Australia, people are hot about this because this is but what did somebody say, about 1,200, I think?
Yeah. Canada too.
Yeah, it's at $800, $900, depending on what area of the world you're in. And with the PlayStation 5 Pro, again, let's just say US for now, US dollars, $700 before taxes. Then if you want the disk drive, because if you want to play and you want to see, I want to go ahead and see any games that I've got on disc, physical media, or Blu-rays. What if you want the high def Blu-rays? What if I want to just pop in the Lord of the Rings extended edition high def Blu-ray? I spent $100 on for the set. Got to pop it in there, see how good it looks. And the only way to do that is you got to go ahead and get the player for $80. So that flat laying over on the ground like that. Okay, that's $810 before you talk about any games, extra controllers, taxes, anything like that. My God, it's pointing me in the direction of just upgrading my computer instead.
But the thing that you forgot about, Gerald, is Mark Cerny definitively promised that if you buy this, you won't have to decide between performance and quality. He said, without a doubt, you guys just missed it because I promise you, wink, that he said, without a doubt, you will never have to make the decision between quality and performance ever again. That's why they showed that slider, and it was going between the two.
So let me ask you this. Why did Digital Foundry, one of the most respected sites and guys that really gets into the inner depths of exactly how the performance of this thing is supposed to work, says right off the bat, the game that probably people would want to buy this for the most, GTA 6, probably will not run at a consistent 4K 60 frames per second, which is, again, for most of us in gaming, the be all end all, because everybody loves their FPS.
Yeah, I'm being totally facetious.
Oh, I know you are.
The craziest thing is they didn't even guarantee that you could run the games that are out now, not even the future games. They didn't guarantee all games now can run at performance plus quality, right?
Yeah.
There's no saying that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is going to run at 60 FPS on the quality mode.
There's only a dozen games, right, that they announced that are being optimized for it at this time.
It's a dozen plus, and then they said other PS4 games will get the AI super sampling. But they showed in the trailer they had to zoom into the background of the clips to show you what it will look like, right? And if you weren't zoomed in with a side-by-side picture, there's no way on earth you would have ever known the difference. There's just no way.
Hogwarts Legacy, you can see it through the stained glass. I don't care.
Yeah. My favorite part of the Hogwarts Legacy is that it still wasn't 60 FPS when they were on the Griffin. It still was running at 30 frames per second. It blew my mind how just out of touch with reality that technical presentation was.
and Jedi Survivor, which is going to be out on PlayStation 4 next week.
Yeah, that was in there, right? I don't. I don't know who this is for besides the Sony diehards, right? Like, I think if they sell more than 2 or 3 million of these, that will be deemed a huge win. Because especially at launch, right? It launches this November. There is no software tied to it. Astrobot, their most recent release, runs incredible on the PS5. There is no performance or quality mode. So I don't even know there's no toggle to switch, right? So I don't even know how you could make it look better. They don't have any other games lined up to come out by the end of this year. And the games they showcased were Last of Us 2, which was probably the remaster that came out this year, but that's a game from 2020. They showed Ratchet and Clank Rift whatever. That was a 2021 title, I want to say. They showed Ghost of Tsushima. That was a 2020 title. They didn't really go over anything even in 2023 besides Alan Wake 2. And they didn't for sure guarantee that Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to run at 60 FPS. The Alan Wake 2 will run, you know what I mean? Like, they couldn't even give us guarantees on that. And they want you to pay $200 more. Plus, if you own those games physically, you're going to be spending more than $800 in the US after taxes. There's only state that you could get away with just the disc drive and the console is Portland. And then if you want to stand it on anything, because the PlayStation 5 is shaped like a weird saucer, so you can't just lay it down flat, you have to spend another $20 on the stand.
It's 30.
Really? I thought it was 20 for the stand.
No, it's $110 for the disc drive and the stand, I believe.
This is like one of those Transformers they used to sell when you were a kid, and they're like, if you buy this one, it can attach to this one. And if you buy this one, it can attach to this one. And you basically have to build your PlayStation like a computer.
Yeah, you're right. It's $30. That's so wild. That just doesn't even. I thought it was 20, and then it would have just been at least $100 before taxes extra, so 800. I mean, you're talking about probably $870 if you're in California after taxes. If you want to get those two things,
we're not even
higher.
Yeah, exactly. We're not much farther behind here in Nevada. But I will say this: who is this for? Because you also have to consider the fact is that you have to have a TV that pushes the limits, that supports all this high fidelity coming out of that PlayStation 5 Pro to actually view it. And that is also part of the problem, because they don't tell you what type of television exactly that you will need. A lot of the individuals that may be interested may not have a TV. My TV is I bought it in 2022. It's a 2022 model. Is it too old now? Is it not going to be able to have the kind of refresh rate, HDR capabilities, things of that nature to support it? And Josh and I have had this conversation before in the Cosmos about buying technology that is going to be better for you down the line when you have more technology that's compatible and will be able to support it. Like, for instance, it's going to be great when 8K is a thing and it's all around us and it's something that's standard. 4K is not even standard for your television now on most channels. So it really puzzles me who this is actually for in regards to the PlayStation 5 Pro. But I'm just like the Apple people out there. There's somebody that's going to buy it. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, we're not going to buy it. Not going to buy it. I see all these polls, 70% people not buying it. Guess what? There's going to be a lot of people still buying it.
So let me just lay something out here for you guys. Like, after the PS4 and Xbox One, I stopped being able to tell the difference in like better performance and graphics on consoles because they were already so good. Like, my eyes don't catch those things. So having that 60 frames per second, is that really going to change and whatever else they're boasting, is that really going to change the experience for anybody?
Well, I mean, the thing they showed isn't 60 frames per second. You can already get that in every single one of those games. And you've probably been playing those games on performance because it looks and feels a lot better. What they're offering is like, you know how you have to choose between quality and performance? They are hinting, they haven't even said it because I don't think they can guarantee it, that you will probably have some toggle that will be a closer balanced mode, meaning that it should have 60 frames. It should have close to 4K, probably not even 4K. And it should have a little bit of ray tracing. But the crazy part is we're not talking about every game. We're talking about Sony first party only, right? Like, they can't guarantee the third parties are really going to make every single thing for this one thing, right? Like the thing that everybody complained about the Series S, this is the inverse of that. This is asking every studio now to make a higher end version and be like, well, they already make that for PCs. Yeah, well, PCs are different, right? They don't have to worry about it running perfectly on a PC. When it runs on a console, it has to be perfect, right? Like there is and obviously we've seen it doesn't have to be perfect. There's been a lot of issues recently, but it should be a little bit better, right? Because it's a closed ecosystem. PCs, they're just hoping. Everything's a hope that it's going to run that great. I just think so much so to every other mid-gen refresh we've seen, where whether it was the Xbox One X or the PS4 Pro or the new Nintendo 3DS XL, right? And new Nintendo 3DS XL was one of the more egregious mid-gens because you had to, if you wanted to trade yours in, you had to rebuy the power cable. I think it was $10 though. But even then, it was an annoying thing that they made you rebuy, right? This is crazy because this is not only the highest price console ever, unless you account for inflation. Everybody likes to say, well, due to inflation, actually this one's higher. Currently, it doesn't matter because the cost of living is higher than ever, right? So yeah, inflation does matter in terms of like it's way too expensive to buy anything now. But at the same time, like people had more money back in the day, as crazy as that sounds, right? People had more expendable income. Maybe they didn't have a lot more, but they had more money compared to what they like needed to spend. Now that's happening less and less, unless you're one of the ultra rich or people who have, tons and tons and tons of thousands. Because I mean, I think I read recently it was like $1,000 a month is the new basic income needs that people were seeing this year, right? Between groceries and bills and all that other stuff, right? So that extra $1,000 a month, and on top of that, you want to charge $700 for a mid-gen refresh that you can barely tell the difference. You have to zoom in on pictures when they're stopped to even be like, oh, you could read the sign now in the background that you couldn't read before. Who cares? Like, honestly, who cares? Like, I may sound very heated about it, but it's just more, I hate seeing Sony do the same thing. I hate seeing history repeat itself because they were the market leader going into the PS3, right? The Sony PS2, nothing was even close. It was the dominant console. And then sure enough, we get the PS3 announcement, cell architecture, blah, 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 $600 for the 60 gigabyte model, $500 for the 20 gigabyte model, right? And I literally just looked up that picture recently because I was curious what it cost. This is that. This is that again. This is them saying, hey, guess what? We don't care if you guys can buy it. And I think Sony is in a worse position now, unknowingly, than they were back then because people had more expendable income. Like I was a young guy. I almost bought it for $600. I had the $600 extra needed, right? I'm a lot older. I work 3 jobs. I work 7 days a week. And even then it's like, you're talking about $700. I don't need this thing. I don't want to buy it. So I'm not going to buy it. And people are like, oh, it's optional. Yeah, but it's kind of like excuse my language, but like a screw you to a lot of the consumer base, right? It's like, hey, you're not rich enough to buy what we want to sell. And Jake, I think you're on the mute. But yeah, it's a crazy, crazy thing that they just don't care about the majority of their consumers. Because they sold the PS4 on being cheaper than the Xbox One, if you remember.
Yeah, I mean, it shows a complete disregard for their fan base and how a lot of people are struggling financially right now. I mean, look at they keep raising the price in Japan. I can't imagine people in Japan are purchasing the PlayStation with ease either. So
112,000 yen in Japan. Just real quick, just so you can get this into your head, 112,000 yen in Japan. And I looked recently. It's been a while, so please don't judge me on this. I could be wrong, but I want to say the average salary in Japan is not that high. It's like 200,000 or 300,000 yen a month. It's really low. Especially considering it's 335,000 yen a month is what people generally make in Japan. Like obviously there's people above that. Yeah, so it's a third of their income.
So 110, just to give you an idea, what you said about 112,000.
Yeah,
did you say that's about $800?
Yeah, it's a little bit more than 800. I don't think they get taxed the same way we do. If I remember from going there,
in today's exchange rate, came out on being to 793.
Yeah, 793, and it could change, and that's for us.
Oh yeah, tomorrow
right?
it'll be 805.
Yeah, and I mean, they also raised the price of the PS5 there recently. They've been raising the price of the controllers everywhere. It's just crazy because, like, I mean, some stats that they have is like if you're in your 40s in Japan, you're making about 5 million yen, I think, a year, and this was in 2016, right? That's $50,000. And that was in 2016. Who knows what it is now? It's probably not that much more if it's anything like the US, because a lot of wages did not grow at the rate of the cost of living. So it's nonetheless, though, I mean, you're talking about 1,100 in Canada, right? And I'll hear these people talking about their food expenses on other podcasts where it's like groceries used to be $60 per visit in Canada. Now they're $200 per visit, right? Like when you're talking about that big of a jump, and then you're like, hey, here's this thing that you don't need. Not only do you not need it, it's not that exciting. Not only is it not exciting, we're probably going to make it so that the games that you purchase on your PS5, which we haven't even been making many exclusives to begin with, they're going to run not as good on your normal PS5 that you bought that we haven't even put out that many exclusives for. And now we're going to make a PS5 Pro, which, you know, if you don't have that, it's not going to look good. I mean, we talked about it last week, but Cyberpunk did not run good on PS4 and Xbox One, the consoles that it was designed to come out on. It only started running good once you got to the like One X, PS4 Pro, and even then it didn't run great. It's only good on the Series X and the PS5. So it's like, this is just a crazy example of like, what have we even had from Sony this generation that's PS5 only? Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, Astrobot. I mean, it's a short list. No, Ragnarok's a PS4 game.
Oh, you're right. You're right. That's
Horizon
right.
Forbidden West, also pre-DLC, PS4 game. Mm-hmm. So they have not even had that many PS5 exclusives, right? It's been Last of Us remake or whatever they called it, remaster part 1 and part 2, even though you can play those both on PS4. It's been, Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, Astrobot. I'm sure there's others on the list. Destruction All-Stars, Concord, right? Concord, the big seller. But yeah, it is so wild. I just like and somebody real quick, just a off topic tangent that people were joking about, which is so funny. Somebody mentioned like how quickly do you think somebody had to go back and change the edit on that video for the technical presentation to remove all traces of Concord? Yeah, because I mean this was what, a week after Concord was taken offline. Like they probably had this video made a long time ago, and they literally probably had to remove Concord from it. Yeah, it's hard for me to actually understand what was going on in Sony's leadership's mind. Besides that, this crazy idea that people, and this is the craziest take I've seen online, where people are blaming Microsoft for not being better competition for Sony. And that's why this happened, because there's no competition for Sony, and that's Microsoft's fault because they haven't been making games, right? I heard somebody else put it this way, and this is so prescient and so perfect. There are no games being made. We want games. We don't need hardware. I know everybody's looking to make new hardware, even Microsoft saying, hey guys, we're going to make the most powerful console soon. It's coming. We don't care. We want games. That's what we want, is games. Like graphics, we're at the, what is that called? Where diminishing returns. We are at diminishing returns with all this stuff. Like what Final Fantasy VII Remake looked pretty darn good on my PS4 Pro. Rebirth looks slightly better on my PS5, but it's not enough that I would have cared, right, if they would have released it on PS4 Pro.
Well, and part of me wonders too, because the sales for a lot of the PS5 titles have not been, have been just short of a lot of expectations of these studios, it seems like. And part of me wonders is it because the hardware is so stinking expensive?
Yeah, I mean, it could be that. I've heard people have been waiting a lot longer to hop on the next generation. I mean, you are talking about an entry price of $500, which is not small by any means, right? The PS4 was $400 at launch. The PS4 Pro, I want to say was it $450, Gerald, or $400? Do you remember?
It was $450, I believe.
Yeah, and Xbox One was $500 and then got cut to $400 almost immediately. And the Xbox One X was about $500 at launch. That was at a time when people had more money, right? Like, so now you're talking about a time when people have less, and then there are next to no reasons to purchase it. And then if you are going all in on PC nowadays, right, which a lot of people have, because like, hey, I have to have PC for work or whatever, I'll just have a higher end PC. Well, you're getting your PlayStation games like a year or two later anyways. It's not even you're missing out on them, right? Like the old adage was like, oh, if you went PC, you'd miss out on exclusives. Well, Microsoft, all exclusives go to PC day one. Sony, all exclusives go to PC in like what, a year or two, maybe 3 if you're really unfortunate. We're getting God of War Ragnarok on PC. I want to say like this month. Yeah, I want to say it's this month. So
see, that's the thing. A lot of these games, Sony is now changing the way it's doing business. So exclusive games to the platform may be a thing of the past because you'll be able to get it on a PC. So why not just upgrade your PC and just get it on Steam?
I 100% agree. And then now, I mean, I love bringing this up because Josh loves it. He loves this. He's smitten by it. This is his favorite thing that I bring up ever. But I have a Steam Deck. I'll admit it. I have a Steam Deck. But no, I have one of those. And like a lot of these games, Steam Deck does almost iPhone-like incremental upgrades when they have the hardware inside of it. Like God of War 2018 runs great on Steam Deck. Horizon Forbidden West runs great on Steam Deck. Or Horizon Zero Dawn. Sorry.
Well, hold on. You know what I'll spend $800 on? We talked about it before. An Xbox handheld that has Game Pass that will also allow me to access those PlayStation titles on my Steam Deck.
Yes. Yeah.
If I'm able to do that and it's combined into one Xbox handheld.
So wouldn't it just make more sense to do a Steam Deck with that can access both the PlayStation Store and Games
Yeah,
Pass?
they're not. The problem is, though, who's going to get the money? Valve. No one likes that, right? So I get it.
Getting PlayStation to do crossplay has been hard enough, Josh.
Yeah.
Come on.
That took years, right? Remember they were worried about the children. That's why they didn't do.
I'm sure it was
the children.
It was about the children. But no, I mean, that's why a lot of people said that the real growth we're going to see, because diminishing returns on mainline consoles, is going to be in handhelds, right? Like the Switch 2, Switch Successor, whatever it's called, it's probably going to be $500. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow because it's probably going to be a year or two old Android again. But it's also going to be able to play games that are PS4, PS4 Pro, will probably run Elden Ring really well, things like that. And then honestly, probably by mid next year and of next year, if you want to fork over the money, I'll probably do it. There will be a new Steam Deck. I'm almost sure. There was a Steam Deck LCD, then an OLED. They're going to skip this year because there's just not a big enough leap. They'll probably go next year.
Sale right now.
Yeah. Oh, the LCD is dirt cheap. And honestly, the OLED, it has slightly better features. But if you're also on the fence, like, it's not like the OLED is a Pro model. It's like a slightly bigger battery, better screen, right? Like LCD is nothing to snuff at, and it's $250 now, right? I mean, that's for a portable PC that can play thousands of titles and hundreds of AAA first party Sony games, right, on it. So it's crazy to see like that we have these options. And then Sony's like, hey, I'm going to do this thing that makes no sense. I think, and there was a guy, his name is Patrick Klepek. He's a famous video game journalist from a long time ago. And he specifically mentioned that about handheld gaming. And he also mentioned how people would be more likely to spend money on a Steam Deck or something that could play whatever just came out, right? Like the Steam Deck can't really run, what it was, that game that came out that I don't care about, Senua's Sacrifice, right? It can't run that well. But hey, a Steam Deck 2 could, right? If it can run that, then it can probably run a lot of other things. So Steam Deck can already run Cyberpunk 2077 at like 30 to 40 FPS. So I think the next generation will probably be able to run it at a higher resolution at probably 60. And I just, like I said, I apologize about bogarting this whole conversation, but this is just... This is that same braggadocio, arrogant thing that poisoned so many people against Sony. One of my closest friends was a Sony fanboy, the Dr. Donna, going in to the PS3. But when you alienate half of your fan base in such a ridiculous way where you're saying, we don't want you, then it's just like, it really does, I think, sting for the people who want to be wanted. For me, it's just more like, hey, it's stupid. It's a bad business idea.
What's even worse, though, if you notice in the past, every time there's been like an upgrade, look at like the 360 Elite, right? That came out, what was that, $400 somewhere?
Yes.
I don't remember.
I paid for it. So yeah, it was $400.
Were any of those mid-gens worth it? I feel like the 360 to the 360 Elite.
I loved my Elite. I'll just say that.
Really?
I
What was
yeah.
the benefit? I actually don't. I'd never owned one, so or maybe I did. I don't remember.
I think it was black. I think that was.
It was
nice,
just slick. It looked nice. I remember because this was when I was running a game store when we when we got the ability to go ahead and buy it. So we got a little slight discount on it, but still, yeah, came out just absolutely slick, ran nice, sounded great. Fan was quieter, much quieter than the original 360. Obviously, the red ring of death had already started coming around, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, you couldn't tell much of the difference as far as game wise, as far as can I see this reflection through the stained glass like they're talking about now? No, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was just a look and a feel, larger hard drive. Just seemed like it was more
premium.
Yeah, it seemed special when you matched up against the white 360. This you match it up against a regular PS5 and it's like, is there a difference?
So yeah, right. So I mean, I'm looking at like this though. The Pro seems to set the standard for what the next generation of consoles is going to cost though. So you look at like the PS4 Pro, right? That came out about $500, $450, and we have the PS5 come out at $500. So this PS5 Pro is coming out at $700. So what are we going to end up paying? The next generation of consoles going to cost about $800 a piece.
Well, I think they're going to. This is a gauge. I think November. Let's just say this holiday period is going to be a gauge because there is going to be a slow time early next year. Nobody's going to want a PlayStation 5 Pro January, February, March, most likely, for the most part anyways. It's not going to be until they announce the GTA 6 at that time. But this holiday, the Nintendo and Xbox are going to have a sharp eye on how the response is to the PlayStation 5 Pro because that will gauge how they may price structure their consoles going forward.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. The PS4 Pro was $400. Just to give you an example. Yeah, $400.
Oh, I thought it was $449 because
I thought so too. It's $399. So I mean, yeah, and in Japan it was $44,980. It's this PS5 Pro is more than double. 44,980 versus 112,000 yen. It is crazy what we're seeing. I'm not as optimistic as Gerald about it selling. I think it will sell like a couple million units, but I think
early on it will, and then it's gonna, and then GTA 6, PlayStation will probably do something as far as co-advertise it, pay, basically they'll give Rockstar money to help go alongside as far as run a couple trailers alongside with it, and you'll see a spike then. But until then, I think next year you're going to see some availability for it.
I think. Go ahead.
I was going to say the developers of GTA 6 have come out and said it could be 2026 at the earliest before we even see that game. So
which makes
didn't they tag it 2025?
They did, but I think a lot of people are saying it's going to be pushed. And honestly, that makes me think that, like, yeah, the PS5 Pro might get some co-marketing, but depending on when it comes out, the Xbox next generation console is supposed to be coming out at that time, right? Which, like, Microsoft also has a lot of money. They could also pay for that co-marketing. I mean, for me, I am so... It reminds me so much of the PS3. It's like unbelievable. But even if you want to look into closer history, it reminds me of the PSVR 2. I want to say the PSVR 2 was that last year? Was it last year?
Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, it was last year at the beginning of the year, right? I'm trying to see when it was released. Sorry, because I struggle. Oh, yeah. So it was released February 22nd, 2023. It was immediately forgettable. Nobody bought one, right? But it came out at what, 600, 5 something? I think it was 600, right? And people complained. They had to literally cancel all the development of how many they were making, how many they were going to produce. They cut the production in half, and they essentially killed the PSVR 2 this year, right? That was 1 year after it came out. They are now selling a PC adapter so you can use it on PC. They don't make it at all really anymore. They're not making games for it. They only made one first-party game, the Horizon game. So why didn't they learn a lesson from that? $600 for this thing that nobody needed. It didn't sell at all. I think it sold less than 2 million units. Like, it feels like we're just walking the same path over and over and over again. and it's like no one cares.
Yeah, I think they're with a PSVR. I think they're blaming it on the technology, not the price point. But
not the fact that it wasn't backwards compatible. I will say, if the PSVR 2 would have been backwards compatible and would have been slightly cheaper, I would have picked one up. I always wanted to play Astrobot. I would have wanted to try Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 7, Resident Evil 7. I would have wanted to play Resident Evil 8, like Resident Evil 4. They have games that are interesting on PSVR, but they just made it such a mess. Like nobody wants to buy a PSVR 1 so you can play one game or two games, and buy a PSVR 2 so you can play two games, and they're not compatible, and one has one cable and one has 5 cables, and then you need to get adapters so you can play one on your 5. It's ridiculous. But I know we've been going long, and I don't want to keep this whole thing because I know there's some Microsoft news. I mean, this whole week has been laden with like what I consider is, and this, you're going to hear this a week later, so I apologize, but with industry like badness, right?
Yeah.
Like bad decisions almost that you kind of could see, and you're like, when does it end?
Yeah. Okay. So real quick before we move on from PS5, I just want to update Gerald here on the Concord eBay prices. All right. So we got
nice.
Top one here that I see was $125. Okay. And then there's a low of $62. So
so it's dropping.
We're getting some fluctuations here, man.
Oh, watch out.
Yeah,
well, maybe are they open at that price? That's the thing.
No, they still have the wrapping on, but it looks like it's holding pretty steady. Like the average, it looks like, is about $85 to $95. So
price charting still has it at 109 for sealed. So again, if it goes to 200 ever, then I'm going to go ahead and grade it, because then it's worth it. Because like I talked about on the last episode, it's $100 to grade a game, even in bulk, because of the shipping costs involved. So, you have to put that into your cost consideration. So, if it does go up, if it doesn't, well, I've got a nice little doorstop here.
Yeah. When the table starts rocking, just stick it underneath the table leg, and you're good. Yep. All right, so we're gonna move the other side of the spectrum now, and I know we love us some Xbox on this show, but Xbox has kind of been the bearer of bad news today.
That's pretty much their status quo
right now.
One step forward, 2 steps back the whole year.
All right, Gerald, have you been reading about this situation? You want to talk about it a little bit?
Well, they made another Friday. I love how they do it on Friday. Oh, by the way, everybody have a great weekend. Oh, on the way out, here's a memo for you. Oh, yeah. 650 staff workers. Again, this is still probably just fallout from the purchase of Activision. Yeah. So I love the European way of saying it. Redundancies. So is pretty much what it's. So if they've got
they call them operational staff, right? Is what they're.
But yeah, if you got an HR from one company and an HR from another company, you don't need that many people to run if you're going to merge it into one. So redundancies is the theme of the day, and 650 people were laid off. Very unfortunate. This has been a terrible year for games, jobs, journalism, anything relating to the gaming field. I don't want to say it's a crash, because I know some people are already online calling this a crash like it was in 1983, but it's not been good.
I don't think we're there, just because the games and the stuff coming out, it's like that crash felt like the end of gaming, right? Like it was a crash on sales, but it was like, it also felt like people just weren't going to play digital video games, right? Like it might just end there.
I was still doing it, but it was like an outlier. You couldn't go to the store anymore and find just aisles and aisles of video game related merchandise anymore. It was kind of pushed to the corner in the stores during that period of time. And basically I was relegated back to the arcades for a period of time until Nintendo brought it back to life in the mid to late 80s once again. So,
yeah. And I think this is slightly different, because like what's happening is a lot of it is just so economics based, and so
it's feast or famine.
Yeah. And we're still seeing tons of games, but I think to couple with this bad news, and I don't know if you want to break up these stories, but just to keep it all Xbox also decided on the same day, hey, we're going to lay off 650 people. We're also changing how Game Pass works, right? And I think they may have announced this earlier, but I think or was spoiled. But yeah, so games like Starfield, Call of Duty, all of those games will not be coming to Game Pass for console. And I can't remember if this was a rumor or mentioned previously, but this has now been confirmed and it's coming soon. So
is it the standard tier or the ultimate?
Standard tier is losing all that stuff. So ultimate. So like I think this was either rumored or it was like discussed. Like
I think
maybe
they previously mentioned that. Yeah, the ultimate. If you get the ultimate at $20 a month, you still get it.
You get all that stuff
day one. Yeah,
but it is strange to be like, hey, if you're on PC, you're still good. You're golden. But if you're on standard on console for $14.99 a month, then hey, it doesn't work that way anymore. You're not getting any of the big games. You don't get EA Play. You don't get the cloud gaming perks. You don't get any of the stuff, right? So I just felt like it was a not a great day. Obviously, like I guess they're going to be falling in the shadow of the PS5 Pro news. So maybe for them, they're like, hey, let's just do it now, right? Rip the Band-Aid off is a good time. I doubt they made those decisions on the laying off of people or the redundancies they want to call them. But about the Game Pass putting it into effect, maybe that was their decision. They're like, hey, let's just do it now. This is a great time to get this over with. Indiana Jones hasn't launched yet. We want to be on a strong point. Next year is supposed to be awesome for them, blah, 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 all that stuff. But this was like a, hey, for anybody who was like, I don't need Ultimate. I only play on my console. Like me, I actually only play on my console. I pay for Ultimate because I'm a sucker or whatever, and because I got it for free for a long time, but I really don't need it. I really never touched the PC gaming side of Game Pass. So I could easily, and I don't use the cloud one almost ever too. But now it's like, well, why would I sign up for Game Pass if I'm not going to get Ultimate? Like, I want those games coming day one. That's why I do it. And it's only $5 a month more. So it is, I know why they're doing it. Once you buy Activision Blizzard and you put Call of Duty as one of your day one launches, that's, what is that? Hundreds of millions, $1 billion in sales you could potentially lose, right? So, and obviously they'll still get the PC and PlayStation sales for the people who don't want to sign up for Game Pass. But still, they're probably losing like 200-300 million. So on this,
but if they play an entire year of Call of Duty on the Ultimate Game Pass,
then they win. Yeah, but the thing is, they are also spending the money on the other games. But yes, that's what the goal is, right? That's why they have this slate of what they were. I feel like they've been planning this for years, and we've been talking about it since we started this podcast in 2017, I think, Jank. But I feel like Microsoft's been lining things up for a long time, right? They keep buying studios. They keep doing this. They keep doing that. They're like, hey, we're going to have a big game every quarter. And then just, I don't know, maybe it's just like, maybe this is like a weird thing to say because I doubt it's this way. It's a huge corporation. Maybe they're nice guys. Maybe they're just like, oh, you need an extra few months. We'll let you have those extra few months, right? Like, I don't know how it keeps going this way. Whatever the case is, it blows my mind that we are still waiting for them to line up and get it so they have a big game every quarter. Because it's been a long time since they've had a big game every quarter. Like, I've been playing Age of Mythology Standard Edition on Game Pass on my Xbox. Great game. Super fun. It's just a remaster of the old classic. But, like, it's not a big budget game, right? It probably is, I don't even know what it costs, $30, $40, right? It shouldn't be a full price game. So it's like, I'm enjoying it. And Flight Sim is going to come out for the people who want that, the creeps and sickos. But it's just the majority of people aren't going to see the value outside of the Call of Duties, Starfields, right? Outside of Indiana Jones,
and
outside of those games.
Yeah. Well, so this is kind of the same thing that PlayStation was doing with the PlayStation Plus packages, though. It's the same, kind of the same concept in a way. And
everybody thought those were dumb, though. It wasn't like those were good.
Yeah, but then I also remember like Phil Spencer like making fun of them for it in tweets too. And lo and behold, here we are following the same business model. So I don't know, man. I think there's greed at the hearts of both of these companies, but you look at the thing with the Activision, laying off these employees because of the Activision Blizzard merger. It seems like they've spent so much time acquiring companies and not enough time actually putting out games, and that's what kind of makes all the rest of this bad news feel like the bigger bummer.
Yeah, I just real quick want to go over some of the games that are not part of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, right? The standard ones, just so you can hear how many games people are not going to get if they don't pay for Ultimate. So here's the list right now. And this isn't including EA Play Library. So you don't get Star Wars Jedi, any of those games, right? You're also not going to get, if you pay for standard, Age of Mythology, Another Crab's Treasure, Botany Manor, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Core Keeper, Creatures of Ava, Diablo 4, Dungeons of Hinterberg, Eiyuden Chronicles, Flintlock, Flock, Forza Motorsport, Galacticare, Go Mecha Ball, Harold Halibut, Haunty, Heavy Weapon, Humanity, Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess, Little Kitty, Big City, Magical Delicacy, MLB The Show 24, Neon White, Octopath Traveler 2, Open Roads, Payday 3, Played Up, Robin Hood Sure World Builders, Rolling Hills, Sea of Solitude, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, the game we just talked about, Slime Rancher 2, Spider Hack, Star Trekker, Starfield, Still Wakes the Deep, Chia, The Case of the Golden Isle, The Rewinder, Turn Up Boy Robs a Bank, and You Suck at Parking Complete Edition. So pretty much every game that they put on Game Pass this year that I know of is not part of Game Pass Standard. And that's crazy because they also have Game Pass Core. What are they doing?
Yeah, exactly.
This is the same thing they hated. But we've been talking for forever, so I don't want to keep ranting and keeping you boys on this, just talking about negative news, because I'm not a negative Nancy or a negative Nelly. I just want to get this all going.
So hold on, we missed a comment here. Kelly Lanigan on Facebook said, so is the PS5 Pro a no-go? Do we land on that? Besides the price point, is it worth purchasing?
I think we were all just in unanimous. Although, Josh, you did pay. I mean, I did previously pay for the PS3 for thing, but I don't foresee myself doing it again, even for GTA 6. But you did pay, PlayStation 5 when it first came out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you see yourself doing it again? Because I'd sound like Brank and I are hard nosed.
I'm a hard no on that too, because look at it this way: even if the pro consoles, when they come out, you're not gonna be able to get them readily available. You're gonna have the people with the bots going after them again, and the scalpers are gonna be selling them. So you're not the chances of you getting
$1,000,
right? The chance of you getting one, even at $700, are gonna be very slim. What you're gonna have a bunch of people who, if they really want it, they're gonna have to end up paying $1,000+ for this console.
Good point.
That's where I stand on this,
Before the disk drive, before the vertical stand, before a second controller, before any games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is just, to answer that question, it's just not for us. It's not for a lot of people. I don't hate Sony. Like, if this was a PS6 and they were launching, okay, perfect example. If this was the PS5 Pro and they said the only way to play Astrobot was to buy it, I would buy it, right? Or if they launched this the same day with Rebirth and said, like, hey, Rebirth, you're not going to be able to play it at 60 unless you get the PS5 Pro. Probably would have got it then too. They have done nothing to sell it. So maybe in a year, maybe sooner if they have games. But right now, why? Why would I buy it? I beat Rebirth, beat Like a Dragon. I don't only game on PlayStation. What am I gaining by spending $700, right? Like, it's not a small amount of money. This was $300 or $400. What?
You talked about the arrogance of companies like Apple and like Sony, which can just put something out there, doesn't have much to support it, but it's just technology that they want to put out there and make it so expensive. And they're just testing the consumer how much or how good their loyalty truly is.
You put our foot down in these expensive shoes that we made and say no. That's how you handle that.
Yeah. I'm hoping things turn around in terms of gaming news, because the way it looks now, it's like it's not like the end of the world, or it's just like a really strange time to be like, like you mentioned earlier, right? Is this a thing? Is this what's going to come? Like, when I want to buy a PS6, am I going to spend $900, $1,000? Right? Like, I'm hoping things change economically, where apartments and food and gas and everything come down, so I have more money to spend on luxury items. But truly, it's when everything costs this much, it stinks to be like, hey, this thing you don't need, we're also going to make it pretty expensive. So you have to think if you want to buy it too. Like, I didn't even really, I barely thought about my Steam Deck OLED purchase, if I'm going to be honest with you, because I knew I could sell my old Steam Deck and I could get the new one and it'd be $300. It's like, all right, it's $300. Yeah, it's not cheap, right? But it's not insanely expensive. I want to get the new one.
Yeah.
No, it's not $700. It's really once you get over the $500-$600 range, when you're starting to get to the $1,000, where it's like, hey, this is kind of a lot of money. Like I work for one of the biggest corporations in the US. I don't even make $1,000 a week after taxes. So, right? Like, and if that's not once a week, well, you got to spend money on other things.
Man, yeah. I mean, I'm driving Ferraris and
I mean, yeah, this Jank, you don't see it in the background. He puts he has a green screen of like junk in the back of his video just because that's a green screen.
This is my poverty background. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't want to show you the real background because it will alienate you guys from us.
That's an improvement though on the background he had for many years, the first years that we were doing the show, and I'm assuming with the Super BS Gamescast as well, where it was an unmade bed.
Oh no, we did everything in person and we didn't do any video stuff. So I
got so many questions. Why can't he make his bed?
I mean, that's a fair question. I actually think we should change what this show is. It should be Super BS Gamescast. It should be, does Josh know how to make a bed? And then we should make you on video.
That's what the BS stands for. It's a super bed setting Gamescast.
It is. It's mostly about bed setting and bed wetting. Okay, bros. I'm tooted. I'm tooted and tie. I am tired of being upset about gaming being way too overpriced.
Amen. Hallelujah. Praise be to whoever makes the cheapest console, right?
So be with it.
Yeah. Peace.
Super BS.